My prayers to the Mother and Sri Aurobindo for universal well-being. And this presentation is a part of the YES program, Yoga, Education and Spirituality, which in turn is a part of the celebrations of the 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo, which coincides to the day, that is 15th August 2022, with the 75 years of India's independence. Today we shall talk about a major school of yoga, Hatha Yoga, and just get introduced to it. One way of looking at yoga is as a journey towards self-perfection. Self-perfection of all parts of the being, and all parts of the being would mean the body and the mind. The mind has two aspects, the emotional part of the being and the intellect. So it's a journey towards perfection of the body as well as the emotional part of the being and the intellect. Now, different schools of yoga emphasize different aspects of self-perfection. The school of yoga that emphasizes physical perfection is what Hatha Yoga is. So Hatha Yoga is that school of yoga which emphasizes physical perfection. Sri Aurobindo describes yoga as a methodized effort towards self-perfection. Yoga involves effort, and it is not haphazard effort, it is a methodized effort. And the physical practices of Hatha Yoga illustrate beautifully the method that is involved in the effort. The classical texts of Hatha Yoga are Hatha Yoga Pradipika and Gheranda Samhita. If you look at the classical texts of Hatha Yoga, you find that it is possible through appropriate dedication and application of mind to reach with Hatha Yoga enormous possibilities. One can perform feats which are bordering on the miraculous. So the occasional stories that you hear about yogis spending long periods of time in an underground pit with hardly any air supply, or living on very little food or hardly any food, being able to eat nails, or being able to pull an automobile with their hair, or being able to walk on fire, are possible. But then that type of perfection of the body can be achieved only by spending all the time one has on the practice of Hatha Yoga. Now, while the possibilities are astounding and very impressive, they have two weaknesses. One is that if the person loses sight of the overall aim of yoga, which Hatha Yoga also has, then it's possible that the person who is able to perform all these feats, which look miraculous, might develop a very giant-sized ego. So, they can act as an ego boost for the person, and he might start exhibiting and demonstrating these to impress people. But even a greater weakness is the fact that if a person spends all the time on perfecting the body, what use is that perfect body if it cannot be put to some use in everyday life, in our routine work? So, therefore, it calls for a sense of moderation. And that's why in a typical class on yoga, in which there are these physical practices, we make a judicious selection of 15 or 20 asanas, 4 or 5 pranayamas, which will take about an hour a day. And then, the person that can keep the person in reasonably good health, and at the same time, leave the person enough time for ordinary everyday work, into which, of course, again, yoga can be brought in. And that is what Sri Aurobindo's yoga is about. All life is yoga. Everything that we do throughout the day has scope for, can be a suitable field for, provides us an opportunity for the practice of yoga. But I'll not digress into that right now. We are concentrating on Hatha Yoga, and that also has a spiritual aim, as we shall see soon. Now, the significance of Hatha Yoga is that whatever the aim of life may be, even if we are walking the spiritual path and our aim is union with the divine, the Basic fact remains that for that we have to use the instruments that we have been given. The basic instruments that we have at our disposal are the body and the mind. And therefore, these instruments should be in a good shape for us to be able to proceed further on the journey, to be able to perform this journey with ease and with efficiency. And therefore, to perfect the bodily instrument is an important part of yoga. The principal physical practice, which is most popular in Hatha Yoga, is the various asanas. And typically, an asana starts with a starting position in which a person is quite relaxed. The position may be appropriate for that particular asana, or it may be just sitting down ordinarily or lying down, but the starting position is a relaxed position. From that, the person goes to the final position. Now, going from the initial position to the final position should be slow, gentle, and graceful. There's no scope for jerky movements in yoga. For example, say this is a rubber band. Now, there are two ways to stretch it. Yogic postures are stretches. The two ways to stretch is, one is like this, the other is like this. Now, it's the second method, that is the yogic method. That is slow, smooth, uniform in speed, without any jerk. Now, when one does that, the stretch, the process of stretching becomes conscious. We can be fully aware of this process of stretching only if we do it slowly and gently. And this is important to be able to achieve, in spite of the stretch, a certain degree of ease in the body, a certain degree of bodily poise. The body is not really relaxed in the normal sense of the word, but at the same time, the effort is gentle, and therefore, if we can think in terms of the consciousness of the body itself, the body is in a way relaxed. And this paradox is something which one can gradually learn in an experiential way by actually practicing these, by not only making the movement slow and gentle and graceful, but also fully conscious, paying attention to different parts of the body which are being stretched, focusing the attention at the right point, and then seeing the marvel that this body is while performing this. Because the fact that this body can perform that is itself a miracle. Of course, life itself is a miracle. But then we can become more and more aware of this miracle while performing this movement, and that makes us not only marvel at the miraculous way in which the body has been constructed, it also inspires a sense of devotion to the one who has designed it. And that's how we can connect with the divine while going to the final position. And this is an important part of the asanas, and that is what makes asanas yoga asanas. Takes them beyond any ordinary exercise. Now, having reached the final position, the person should stay there for some time, hold the posture there for some time, and how long the posture is held will depend upon the capacity of the person. How long the person can hold, it will also depend upon the time available. And while holding the position, the breath need not be held. And while the body is in a position of intense stretch, it is an enjoyable stretch. The person does not really feel the stretch. The person is holding the posture more or less without any effort. And this is physiologically quite understandable, because we require contraction of the muscles, rather contraction of one set of muscles and relaxation of another set of muscles to be able to perform a movement. But then this contraction of the muscles is required only for performing the movement, during the movement. Once the movement has been completed, then the muscle can once again go into relaxation, because now this new length of the muscle becomes its resting length. So this is physiologically understandable. And to be able to do it, if one does it consciously, one really finds that the holding the position in the final posture, in spite of appearing to be a position of intense stretch, can be quite effortless. And then after holding the posture for some time, one comes out of this final position slowly, gently, and gracefully once again, and goes once again to a relaxed position. So you would see that stretching alternates with relaxation. We start with a relaxed position, go to a final position which is a position of intense stretch, and then after coming out from the position, one is again relaxed. So relaxation, relaxed position, a position of intense stretch, intense but enjoyable stretch, and then once again relaxation. Sri Aurobindo describes this effortless holding of the posture as physical immobility. And he says that the power of physical immobility is as important in Hatha Yoga as the power of mental immobility in the Yoga of Knowledge, and for parallel reasons. Parallel reasons in the sense that unless we establish a certain degree of background silence or immobility, we do not have any opportunity to go deeper. For example, in a swimming pool, if the pool is turbulent, we can't look at the bottom of the pool. But if the swimming pool is quiet and peaceful, then we can see the lines at the bottom of the pool very clearly. So that one can understand in relation to meditation, that the mind by very nature is chaotic, and it's only when we achieve a certain degree of silence of the superficial activity of the mind, we achieve a sort of mental immobility, that we can access the deeper layers of the mind. We can go deeper, look within, and try to access those regions of the consciousness which we are not normally aware of. So in relation to meditation, it's easy to understand, but that applies also to the body. And once again, the body by nature is also restless. And if we achieve during these postures a physical immobility, then once again, through the body also one can approach the divine. The body as well as the mind, both are manifestations of the divine, both are expressions of the divine. The body, a gross expression, and the life force, a subtle expression, and the mind, a still more subtle expression. So these are all different expressions, gross or subtle, and therefore one can approach the divine through any of these. It's possible to approach the divine also through the body, but then for that one has to establish a certain degree of physical silence or physical immobility, in contrast with the usual restlessness which characterizes the body. Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras talks of this, describes this immobility as prayatna shaithilya, that is effortlessness, relaxation of effort. Prayatna is effort, shithil is relaxed. So prayatna shaithilya is a relaxed effort. And how does that happen? Ananta samapatti dhyam. That is by meditating on the infinite. Ananta is one which has no ending, which has no limits, infinite. So by meditating on the infinite, the effort is relaxed. So it's possible to approach the divine, connect with the divine while performing these postures, even in a position of intense stretch, and that is what makes the posture effortless and enjoyable. This was part of the second chapter of this book, A Primer on Yoga, which is on Hatha Yoga. This is a picture postcard view of Sri Aurobindo Ashram Delhi branch, where I live and work, and you are all most welcome here. And even later, if you have any questions or comments, or you want these slides, or you want ashram magazines to arrive in your inbox through email, please feel free to contact me on this email address, SA for Sri Aurobindo, 150, it is 150th birth anniversary which is coming, and yes, the program Yoga, Education and Spirituality. So essay150 yes@gmail.com. Thank you.